Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're setting the stage for a seriously mind-bending journey. We're going to unpack the esoteric teachings and, honestly, the profound philosophical breakthroughs tucked inside Carlos Castaneda's Tales of Power. So if you're ready to completely challenge the very foundations of how you perceive reality, well, you are in exactly the right place. Right off the bat, we're bypassing a simple, linear story today. Instead, we're taking a thematic journey through the core philosophical lessons that Castaneda's teacher, the Yaqui Indian sorcerer Don Juan, presents out in the remote chaparral of the Sonoran Desert. We are diving straight into the deep end of the unknown. To properly enter this world, we kind of need to establish a specific atmosphere. The book actually opens with this deeply mystical poem by San Juan de la Cruz. It goes, "The conditions of a solitary bird are 5. The first, that it flies to the highest point. The second, that it does not suffer for company, not even of its own kind. The third, that it aims its beak to the skies. The fourth, that it does not have a definite color. The fifth, that it sings very softly." Keep these conditions in mind as we go. They're prepping us for this progressive stripping away of our everyday reality. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture Castaneda sitting out in the desert with Don Juan, and Don Juan just drops this staggering revelation on him. Do you know that at this very moment you are surrounded by eternity? I mean, what a powerful statement, right? It's designed to hook your curiosity and throw you right into the depths of your own perception. Section 1. Beyond the Power Plants. Before we get into the really heavy metaphysics, we absolutely need to shatter a massive illusion regarding Castaneda's earlier experiences. See, Castaneda assumed hallucinogens, or, power plants, were the ultimate key to the sorcerer's world. But Don Juan delivers this harsh reality check. Psychotropic plants weren't actually necessary for sensitive people. They were merely used as a blunt tool, a jolt, basically, because Carlos was, in Don Juan's own blunt words, dumb. He was just too deeply entrenched in his rigid reasonableness. Sensitivity, Don Juan notes, is completely natural to some people, like his other apprentice, Eligio, who barely had to use the plants at all. Section 2. The warrior's true humbleness. With that illusion totally shattered, we need to contrast Castaneda's, let's call it neurotic skepticism, with the mindset you actually need to grasp these teachings. There's a profound distinction here between self-confidence and humbleness. The average man seeks certainty in the eyes of onlookers. He's hooked to his fellow men, chasing what he likes to call self-confidence. But the warrior? The warrior seeks impeccability in his own eyes, which Don Juan calls true humbleness. The warrior is hooked only to himself and his own flawless actions, completely independent of whatever external validation is floating around. And to actually achieve that level of impeccability, Don Juan demands this. You must push yourself beyond your limits, all the time. When Castaneda pushes back and calls this insane, Don Juan delivers a brilliant lesson. He points out that things that seemed totally insane to Castaneda 10 years ago are perfectly possible for him right now. The things themselves didn't change. Actually, Castaneda's idea of himself changed. Section 3. Surrounded by eternity. So as night falls on their power spot in the desert, Don Juan introduces some truly mind-bending metaphysics. He says, we are luminous beings, and for a luminous being, only personal power matters. He physically taps Castaneda's chest to drive this home, explaining that humans are essentially just feelings and awareness encased in temporary physical boundaries. And getting out of those boundaries, well, that requires an accumulation of personal power. And with that personal power, our entire relationship with time and space starts to fracture. Don Juan points to the horizon, to the zenith, to the east and the west, and offers this totally staggering idea. One moment can be eternity. And he doesn't mean that as some poetic riddle. He claims that if a luminous being has enough personal power, they can literally mount a single moment and use it to extend the totality of themselves forever in absolutely any direction. Section 4. The Art of Dreaming. Now, you might be wondering, okay, how do I actually practice these abstract concepts? Well, in the sorcerer's world, dreaming is not just normal sleep. It's defined as cultivating this peculiar, deliberate control where your dream experiences acquire the exact same pragmatic value as your waking hours. The ultimate goal is making the ordinary criteria we use to differentiate a dream from reality completely inoperative. Don Juan gives Castaneda a highly specific, tangible process to pull this off. Step 1. Command yourself to find your hands while you're dreaming. It sounds super simple, but it's this deadly game your mind plays to prevent you from doing it. Step 2. Once you realize you're dreaming, lift your hands to eye level. And step 3, the exact moment your hands begin to dissolve or change shape, immediately shift your view to other surroundings in the dream to stabilize the image. Castaneda actually practiced this for years, fighting through extremely frustrating, wild nightmares before he finally gained control and saw a perfectly clear composite picture of a foreign street.
Section 5. Stopping the internal dialogue. This brings us to what is probably the most relatable takeaway of this entire explainer: the internal dialogue. You know, that constant, nonstop voice in your head? Don Juan explains that the world is only such and such because we constantly tell ourselves it is such and such. It is the very mechanism that dictates and firmly grounds our everyday reality.
And here is the ultimate secret Don Juan shares. To change our idea of the world is the crux of sorcery. He basically tells Carlos that everything else they did, the power plants, the grueling exercises, the whole shebang, was just padding. Shutting off the internal dialogue is the only true passageway into the sorcerer's world, simply because it's the only thing that actually changes your idea of the world. This work truly takes you right to the edge of the abyss, into the nawal, the unknown. It represents the utter shattering of the personal, historical self, stripping away all our normal masks and categories of labeling. Because think about it, when you actually stop that dialogue, the labels just vanish. So I want to leave you with this deeply personal challenge to chew on. Can you shut off your internal dialogue, even for just a few minutes? Can you stop telling yourself what the world is? Or are you, kind of like Castaneda at the very beginning of his journey, forever trapped by your own reasonableness? It's a truly fascinating limit to test within your own perception. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.